Dear Lord, we just thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for this time to gather together and discuss this issue of the vacancy and districting by county lines. Just pray that you give us wisdom as we discuss this and look at the information we have, Lord. And we just really ask for your wisdom in this, because without your wisdom, it's hard for us to make good decisions. We just pray that you be with us this afternoon. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, folks.
Voting machines? Yeah, there's stuff in there too to do that.
Well, the problem with doing that is it's got a cord on it. Can you want to deal with the cord?
Can you all hear me? Okay, I need a cord then. I'll hold a cord, don't matter to me. Whatever's gonna make it so folks can hear. So,
Probably have to come over here too, Chip.
I need to be over there or? Yeah, you don't want me to sing. I was asked to sing one time on a hill far away, and they weren't kidding. They wanted me to sing on a hill far away.
Stan Hall of us.
Huh?
I'll get Stan Hall of us. That's what he goes to do his bingo.
I'll rewind it all up. No, we're not pulling anything out, are we?
Just be careful unless you're gonna have a good trip.
Oh, yeah, have a nice trip.
Oh, wow.
That's hot.
That's
real hot.
Is that gonna be?
Is that loud enough? Everybody can hear now? Way too loud.
Well, we're used to having old people play bingo.
I will not yell into this microphone. So, okay.
I can hear you blink.
Huh?
I can hear you blink.
I hope that's all you'll hear me do. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. Dan Vouch is looking for the wrong knob. Is that okay? Well, it's still really echoey, but
Didn't change anything.
didn't really change much, did it? We'll let the audio guys work on this for a minute.
Wow, that is really hot.
Try again.
Is that it? Is that better? Now you're getting better. Yeah, that's not quite as, it's got a little reverb or something, I don't know, whatever it is. Is that better? Everybody can pretty much hear now? They're saying it's good, so we're good. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you coming out.
Well, welcome, everyone. This is a very impromptu gathering, and I appreciate the opportunity. I'm very thankful for how many of you showed up. I'll just tell you exactly what prompted this and where it's at, and that's why we're here to have this discussion, because I'm gonna preface this whole thing by why I wanted to have this, and I think it's important to me. I don't know about to you, but to me, this is why it's important. It's because I genuinely love every one of you. And after we got done with that discussion down there in Management Council, the way that sounded and the way it looks like it could shape up, and because of some of the things that are involved in this, I don't want you guys to get blindsided. Because I genuinely do care about what happens to you guys. And I believe I know where your heart is on this and what you're wanting to do. And I admire what you're wanting to do, and I fully support what you're wanting to do. And that discussion has started across the state of Wyoming, and there are multiple other counties that recognize ultimately what I believe, in my mind, is the end goal of this, and that is not to do away with the rural vote, because that's where I believe it's headed. We've seen it all over the United States, and you guys, through this method, through looking at our state constitution, I believe that's what our founders had in mind in providing that kind of basically protection for a republic and not a true democracy. And so that's the discussion. And I wanted to have this conversation with you guys and come down here and let you know kind of where it's at, and that's why you've got many, you didn't make near enough, so.
You didn't give me near enough.
Yeah, so, but, there's copies here of the information, the memorandums of what they're sharing with me, and what is, probably gonna be the outcome or the process by which they said this will happen. And the most concerning part of this, to me, was the discussion about if you guys show up with a district representative and a senator without going through these different things of being, basically certified by the state canvassing board and recognized as by district, that you gentlemen or ladies, whoever you ask to sit down there, are gonna be basically met at the door by a sergeant of arms, and you're not gonna be allowed to come in. And if that's where we need to go with this, and you believe that that is the best method way forward, then I understand that. But I just didn't want you guys to go down there and to have a bunch of people not know what to do, have never been faced with this before. The discussion, and I have some of the discussion here and on my phone, who is in charge? And that was another part of the revelation of this, is that at that point, I won't even be speaker when you would want to install a new legislator into the chamber. This will be the previous administration. This will be the previous leadership. And they will be there because I myself won't even be completely certified to be able to be in on the floor. That has to take place. And then after that election, there'll be an election for me. If I do get to that point, we'll know that this next Saturday for speaker, and then I will have to be voted on by the entire House. And so what it boils down to is that everything that happens on the installing, from what I could gather, it has to happen on the initial, which is leadership that is currently in position right now. So to being able to come and install someone, that's going to require a vote. And quite frankly, right now at this point, I don't know that we would have enough votes to say that you could install someone. And it is so completely, as you look through this, trying to figure out how that's going to fit, at this point, for lack of a better description, unless we have better defined ways this is going to happen, it's going to be utter chaos. And we're going to have a lot of people that don't know exactly what's happening in front of them right now. And then the conversation was brought to me, so, well, you know what, I'd like to bring some of my own people, because I don't think we are justly represented. So the gentleman from Teton County is like, I'd like to bring a couple of representatives as well. And so, I don't know. And I just don't want to have this conversation in the Capitol when they're trying to install a new 68th legislature. And I don't want to have you guys come with people that you want to fill these positions according to our state constitution and be met at the door with highway patrol or sergeant arms saying, you can't come across that line because you are not a duly elected, sworn, by district, certified by the Secretary of State representative of the Wyoming House of Representatives. Now there is some movement in there, we're talking about that discussion, that if the whole body would vote to install them, I don't know, but if we read through this material, it kind of says we maybe could. But then when they go back to the determination that, the way this is currently set up, they said there's no vehicle, there's no path forward, really, right now, until we actually have a change in our, I don't know if you'd call it statute or whatever, because one suggestion made to me, and you guys may read it through there, I hate to even go to this, but potentially a conventions of states issue of changing the national constitution to say that you recognize the states and their sovereignty in that respect. That was one suggestion that was made at the end of that one letter you can read in there by Matt Obrick.
Chip,
Yes, sir.
what about the fundamental thing is they violated the Constitution, and any statute that is not in coherence with the Constitution is null and void.
Well, and that was a discussion that we had, but he also cited that there are two places in our Constitution that says our Constitution is subject to the US Constitution.
Which it is anyway.
And so, and that's the discussion that will happen. William, yes.
As a prefatory matter, I'd like you to understand I'm fully in support of you being in the House.
This is getting to be less and less intriguing to me all the time, I can tell you that.
But what
But anyway, we're here.
And I appreciate your coming to this group to let them know the chaotic situation, which means it won't turn out well, usually for most people, that it is brewing down there.
Mhm.
But what I'm speaking to now is your prefatory remarks were that you interpret this at the bottom to have to do with protecting the rural vote. I think that means you're not a good representative of what the concerned citizens tried to do in this county and what the Board of Commissioners voted to do. They voted to not attack the Equal Protection Clause. They voted to not contest one man, one vote. They voted only that the legislature, which gets authority from the people, as put in the Constitution, follow the Constitution. That's it. So that if you think this is about protecting the rural vote, and we all like that to be the case, but we're not fighting that battle, because you're gonna lose it in these courts until Trump can appoint 3 more.
Even one more would be awesome, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so, I don't know if can you appreciate that if you go to those discussions thinking in your head, at the bottom we're protecting the rural vote, you've already lost. That's not what Weston County did. It wants the legislature to follow the Constitution. We're not arguing equal protection here. We're not arguing any federal issue whatsoever. We don't want to be in federal court with federal judges. So don't even talk about things that will get you in federal court and stick to the Wyoming constitutional issue that was just raised.
Okay. And I can appreciate that, but I think that is kind of where everybody sees this as wanting to utilize that as the ability to be able to protect as we see our rural districts disappearing in our municipalities.
And I hope you argue against that.
And they see that value of, and all of these smaller counties have all come to the table and go, yes, we need senatorial representation. And so, and that would be the value of that, and that's what they're saying. If, at this point, the only advice that I was given is that Weston County has every right and an ability to sue the state of Wyoming. And he said, and they have a case. That was Matt Obrecht. And he said that that would be the most logical and best thing that could possibly happen, is challenge the way that this is currently cited in those judge decisions. And so,
Chip, I wonder, is that correct? Won't the courts say that they'll come up with a legal fiction that counties are only creatures of the state and they don't have standing to sue the state?
that is, I just had that discussion yesterday with him. I said, are counties sovereigns? And he said, no. He said, counties are not sovereigns. He said, states are sovereigns. Counties are subdivisions of the state of Wyoming.
Right, that's what they'll argue, and therefore, it's not the case that Weston County has the ability to sue and get anywhere, because it won't be allowed standing to sue.
Well, according to Matt Obrecht, who said if I needed to phone him, he said he would be glad to be on the phone, and so was Brian Shuck. He said if we had questions that we need to answer or something like that, he said he would be waiting at the ready to be able to answer those questions right now.
I can talk to them. Thanks for mentioning both of those.
And so, but Matt would be glad to visit with you. And that's what this, and like he said, all I'm saying is this is what we have as protocols, and what we're seeing that. And that was the firm advice that he had to me was, Chip, he said, these folks can do whatever they wish. He said, but currently the way the things are written, he said, that's what they're going to be met with. He said, they're not going to be able to come in with their delegate or their representative in onto the floor. He said, because he said, it's not there to be able to allow them to do that. And that, honestly, William, that is what really got to me.
Yeah.
was the fact that you guys and all your hard work and everything that you're wanting to do, which I admit is the best thing that I think happens, to follow our state constitution, not only for what you're saying, maybe I'm on a different track because I see a bigger issue coming as I've been at the state that is killing us, that is literally going to take our vote away. I got hunters at my ranch right now. I just left. They said, we all want to leave the state of Minnesota. He said, because it means nothing. Our vote means nothing. He said, Minnesota's red. He said, Minneapolis, St. Paul's blue. He said, we do whatever they tell us. He said, there is no autonomy. And so I told him I was going down to this meeting. He says, man, he said, if you could figure out a way to actually have some representation, he said, I can't even imagine what that would do for our counties, that we have rural conservative counties that would actually have a voice. He said, because our voice is gone. And so, and that's my thing in this, is I just am afraid that we're going to move to the point where we no longer have that. As we see even the redistricting, which is a major part of this, we see pieces of the municipalities being taken into larger rural districts. Those rural districts cannot overwhelm the vote in those municipalities. And so,
Maybe this is for another day, that you just crack that door open a little. There is the way to protect against the state going the way Colorado did, or Nevada, which has all the votes it needs in the legislature out of Clark County alone, is to restrict who can own the water so that cities can't, take away cities' ability to eat up the environment and grow, and stop enabling urban growth. It's not to attack one man, one vote. See what I'm saying?
yeah. And William, I'll be completely transparent with you. I wish I understood as well as you do what's happening. Full transparency, I don't. But I mean, I don't. I really don't. I mean, all I know is that when we're gonna go down there, and I would love to see a piece of legislation, that's why I asked Matt. I said, what can I draft to start to change this on the state level? What do we need to do? And he says, really? He said, they've got to sue. He said, is that true, William? Do you believe that is the avenue or the vehicle by which, or is that an onerous or?
That's what Driscoll told me 10 years ago.
Well, see, and he's getting it from the same vector. Yes, Dan.
I don't think that's true. If you go back to 1992, at that time, and this is secondhand, I wasn't on the floor, but I believe the people that told me it was true is true. They told the freshman representatives and senators coming in the New Boys School, they said, you can do anything you want down here, even commit murder as you so vote. Yeah. And I said, when I heard that, I said, well, you better look up the Constitution, because that ain't what.
In addition to the weekly printed version of the newsletter journal, we also promote our community and share important information on our award-winning website, newslj.com, and in our weekly email newsletter, Nuke Now. We also connect with readers through various social media platforms and invite you to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can even take a look at a recent meeting of the City Council, School Board, or County Commission on our YouTube channel. We do hope that you will go to newslj.com and subscribe today, and we look forward to making all of our great content available to you. But regardless of your level of support, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for doing your part to preserve a free and independent local press.
Said, when I heard that, I said, well, you better look up the Constitution, because that ain't what it says. But as far as suing, I agree with William and Alan that they're going to say no standing. Okay. But we are not demanding they go in when they swear in the new people. Here's my take on it. If we do this and you go down there, we don't have to send them down right now. This is an ongoing process. We knew we were just opening the gate and going down this road. Okay, we've got the gate open, we've got a few people outside. So you go down and get the legislature situated. And then the legislature can so vote to ignore of the Constitution. That's what the legislature did before. They said, we're going to ignore the Constitution. All you guys have to do is go down there. If the concerned citizens have the floor in the House, then you just say, we're no longer going to appear the ignore. We're going to ignore the nor, if you want to be that.
And it says that in that Constitution. You can read that at the bottom in the italicized markings down there. And so.
So then, if other counties come in for their representation, which they're entitled to, the other districts, then you'll have more people. And we can put them in any time in the year that you guys so vote. Then we would have to wait probably till the 1st of July, as all legislation. I don't know that process. You would.
Well, right now, it would happen on the 14th of January is where the session would start, and they will be
Right.
installing new
But-
legislators at that point, yes.
But if you guys so vote to ignore the little handprint, which has no standing in any court, then you can do it. Because you are the legislature, you are there.
Right.
When Tracy Hunt called you and said, Chip, you don't have the authority. You don't, but the legislature does.
Right.
And if you guys have the vote to do that, and if you want to go back into the federal, if you go to Article 4 of the U.S. Constitution, it clearly states that it guarantees a republic form of government for every state. And that's what ours is a republican. Where it's not a democracy, it's not a one-man, one vote, and we're not gonna go there. But I'm saying we have a right to a democracy.
A republic.
A republic, excuse me. And if you go on back to the 10th Amendment, and this is where Richard Mack and them won their lawsuit. It says the federal government has no authority over the states other than what the Constitution gives us.
Clearly enumerates.
And so we're not ignoring the state constitution or federal constitution by what we're doing here. We're not saying we're not following it. We're following it to the letter. It's them that are asking them to override their constitutional right to push ours down.
Well, I will tell you this, Dan, that I do believe that moving forward with this and trying to, do what you're saying, there is, I think, broad-based support in the House right now to do that, to have that discussion and to be able to have that vote, more so than I've ever seen.
With the elected one or the previous one?
With the elected one, the ones that coming in. The
So
previous ones, you'd have a snowball's chance
So
in
would
one
it-
place.
So what Dan says is not put us in, like on the 14th of January, but wait until the new legislature can vote on it?
Well, at the very least, and I told Matt, I said, I will vote with my constituents. I said, I will bring it, if there's a vote to allow these folks in, I am committed to them, I will be a vote. If I'm the lone vote for them, which it doesn't sound like it will be, J.D. Williams is supportive of this, and that's why I've been sending that information. I said, it's gonna come to a vote, a majority vote in the House to move away from this or to support it. Yes, sir.
Well, and another thing, if Chuck Gray has time, he's got his handful right now. We don't expect this to happen. I've been here 30 years, so another month.
Dude, I thought you wanted this to happen 10 years ago, and I'm just trying to figure out how we can make this work. I can see that if we have a complete blow-up on this thing, my tenure and the conservatives' tenure is gonna be very short. So we're gonna have to really make this work. If we're
Well,
gonna do
if
this, at
Chuck
least
Gray
create
said
the
if we
motion.
held this election, which we did, we filled the vacancy the way we should have, he said he would recognize that. But if he will go along with the legislature on recognizing that they can ignore, then it's an unconstitutional election that's been held. He does not have the authority to hold an election for a representative that lives in this county to represent another county. So they have no authority to do the election.
I see, okay, I see what you're saying, yes.
Because you said they'd say we weren't legally elected.
Well, based on the way that it is right now, because you're elected out of your district, which is defined in statute right now, and if you are come out of that district, voted on by the people of that district, then that represent that district. Yes, Carrie?
Chip, if I can follow what Danny was saying before, I think Danny's suggestion was for the legislature sometime during this next session
Mhm.
to vote to ignore the footnote in the bottom of the Constitution and to follow the Constitution effective so most legislation says it will go into effect July 1st.
Right.
So you
Or
can say
it can be enforced immediately.
effective in this legislature, effective July 1,
Correct.
the state of Wyoming will abide by its constitution and ignore the note that says we may.
Mhm.
So
And your districts will
put it
change their mind.
into effect for perhaps the next legislative session. So if other counties who have no representation wish to do the same thing as Weston County did, they have time to get their people in order before the next session.
Mhm.
Does
Yeah.
that make
That we can do. I mean, that can be done. That's a floor vote that can be brought, and that could have to be a resolution or something like to that effect that will be drafted and can be voted on by the body. And I can assure you that we can bring that. I mean, no question about it. Yes, sir.
Well, I think what we brought to the county commissioners to sign pretty much states it. They just said, we agreed that we said we'd uphold the Constitution and that's what we're going to do. And that's all the legislature has to do. It can be that simple. We're upholding
basically
the
it would be a
Constitution.
new redistricting.
It'd be a new redistricting based on county lines.
Yep.
It really would. But that's where they're gonna say that you're gonna run afoul of the even and fair vote, and that some districts, let's say Niobrara. There's 2,700 or 2,500 human beings that live in Niobrara County. Okay, well, Niobrara County now has a senator and one representative. Okay, well then when you divide that, huh?
The Wyoming GOP did put forward a plan that would allow you to do both.
Now, can you speak, you just came from the state committee meeting?
I did.
Can you speak to that and what was shared there and what was discussed at that point?
This
Do
wasn't.
you want this? You can go a ways, but it is attached to something solid.
So this issue wasn't discussed at this weekend's GOP meeting, but it has been discussed at other GOP meetings. Mainly when we were in the redistricting period, the last 10-year redistricting period, the state GOP did bring forward a plan that would allow not to increase the size of the legislature, but to abide by the constitutional lines and still have equal representation. It would abide by everything and not increase the size of legislature. So the GOP does have that plan.
Is that the one that Brian Shuck is in support of? Okay, so Brian, I talked to him today, and he said he'd be glad to listen on this today if you have questions.
So there is a plan and there is a way to get it done, both things done. So,
Carrie,
yeah,
could we get a copy of that plan and take a look at that?
yes.
Okay.
I'll call people more organized than me because I'm
Okay.
not really sure where mine is.
Okay.
But yes, I can get that for you. It's
So,
Joey Prentice's plan. He was in charge of the redistricting.
Okay.
I'll find it.
okay, yeah, it would be
You
good to
have
have
it.
a copy of that. And if that's something that can have a resolution or some type of piece of legislation that we can craft and deal with that, Don.
A couple direct questions, and then from the commissioner's point of view, we need to understand here that we did sign the resolution. However, this was new to all of us on how we were doing this, and I did not sign the final paperwork on that because I had a name nominated without a follow-up name. We didn't nominate 3 people, which is typically what we would do, okay? Didn't know that till after the fact through Frank. We should have nominated 1, 2, and 3. We did nominate 1, the representative, but we did not nominate the senator. And when that person withdrew from that, if you remember, a lot of you guys weren't there, which was, I understand some of you didn't have notice or whatever, but I said at the time I was concerned about nominating William for health reasons. I said at the time I was concerned about it. So we haven't followed the finished step, which is what the intent for tomorrow was, to finish that step. But in order to do that, I think you can verify that that's a calendar, a ticking clock. you only have a certain amount of time to do that without resetting and starting all over again. So where we're at with this process, in my opinion, is we've already run out of time on this particular clock because we didn't nominate that senator. And from my direct question to you is if we continue down the process that we're going right now, from what we understood before to what we understand now, could this affect your position down there with your support in the way that we handle it? And I mean, we need to all know that as well. Could this affect you personally?
I don't believe so, because I'm running unopposed.
Well, I know, you said you wouldn't even be on the floor now.
Yeah, because see, I would not actually be installed. You're still operating in the 67th legislature. And so that is going to be Albert Summers is going to be the speaker, to potentially be in the chair, or potentially, even for a brief period, there'll be a designee from the Secretary of State's office that will sit in the chair in the presiding officer position. And so then I have to come in and be voted on, and then we install. They go to a room, they verify the credentials of each one of those leaders that have been elected from their districts. They come out and they say, yep, they're all been duly elected, everything's been verified, and that these members can be seated on the floor of the Wyoming House of Representatives.
And correct me if I'm wrong, from what all the roads that you and I have discussed in recent days is that this road, whether we want it in federal court or state court or wherever it goes, leads to court. It doesn't lead to sending people down there first because those letters say they will be rejected completely.
That's what I'm...
Which, honestly, I'm a little bit, I guess, not annoyed, but disappointed because we had an individual running for city council that we withdrew from the race. All those things were based on that, and I think he's an incredibly good person and would be a great thing for that job, but I think we need to have our ducks in a row. I think we need to be a little bit more prepared than we were the first time because from what I'm understanding, that time clock ran out because I'm going to sign a paper of a representative and no backup representative or a senator that really wasn't going to take the position anyway. It makes us look silly because we're not prepared for the situation. I want to know what you think about it. Am I saying it right? All roads lead to court at this point.
Everything that I have been told, and then even in that meeting, was that the first most logical thing that's going to go the furthest and get the most done is a lawsuit where Weston County sues the state of Wyoming for the ability to be able to seat their delegates.
And Weston County made it clear to everybody, we don't have the funds to fight that on that level, which is why we were looking for support from the Republican Party in those areas. It's going to take some type of financial backing.
Well, but to Andy's point, if this looks like this is something that we just need to go in there and say as a body, that we are going to vote, and if we have enough votes to pass that, then that changes the dynamic immediately. Now you got to bear in mind it's going to be required to have a vote in the Senate as well. To change those kind of things, you've got to have both houses. Alan, you want to go? Whoever wants to be first.
Well, one comment I wanted to say is, to your point, Don, we're kind of confused. And part of it is we are confused because this is a process that we've never done. We've never backed up from redistricting by population to go to districts by county lines. And so this is a new process. And so there is no way in statute or in bylaws to fill these vacancies that we do have because we don't have a senator or representative from our counties. And so, I mean, and part of the way we learn this process is by making mistakes and moving on. And I agree with Danny's point that, and Chip's, I think it's, once the new legislators are seated and in their places, then they need to vote whether they're going to accept another representative or another senator, or I mean, in their case, it'll just be the representative.
And that could be the way to do that, and from the standpoint of, we're going to go back to what the Constitution says, and we vote as a body to adhere to the Constitution. And then the discussion then, or the changes then would have to be made. And that's, I mean, William.
Yes, I think that's the best chance this idea has of going forward. I'm looking for a political solution personally, not a legal solution. I would like people in the legislature to uphold their oaths and follow the Constitution. And so I very much approve of your thinking. Maybe the votes will be there, we'll see, and then maybe we can do something. That to me is optimal. It doesn't matter to me if anybody gets seated or not. People here are making their claim that the legislature needs to follow the Constitution. And I fully support that. I don't care if there's a bump in the process, or 2 bumps or 3 bumps, because in the end, there's no bump to the fundamental American law that the state has only the powers given to it by the people. No bumps in that road.
Well, William, I get what you're saying.
And the county, when you talk about suits, the county has no dog in this fight. The people being appointed by the commissioners, the vacancies to be filled, are for the district in the legislature bounded by the county lines. Article 3, Section 3, opening phrase is for legislative, it says that for legislative races, the legislature shall district the state. The district has a dog in the fight. The district that exists because of the Constitution. But the county doesn't. The county has no representation in the legislature. The feds have already settled that. Counties don't get representation. Individuals do. So even to talk about the county going to war in the court is BS. It's not going to get off the ground. Don't let people fool you on that.
Yes, ma'am, and then.
Susan Morales. I was wondering what everyone thinks is if we would go ahead and send our people down, and then follow up with and just let people know that, I don't know, and then go ahead and put forth the resolution that hopefully would be like Carrie said, that follows the Constitution and give each county a senator and a representative. What would that do?
The new store. This is the one-stop shop. We have a pharmacy. We have a bootlegger's liquor. The deli, the food that you can get at a lunchtime is so amazing. The coffee shop. Certain Friday mornings, there's 30 people sitting here in all these chairs. This is the hub for people to come and visit, have their coffee, have their donuts. It's amazing what this area has done. Totally amazing.
And give each county a senator and a representative. What would that do?
But I'm with Sue. I would be perfectly willing to go all the way down there and get turned around by the sergeant at arms, just because then you've done it.
That's a statement right
It's a
there.
statement.
It needs to be made.
So that's fine. And then it can maybe go on from there with your new legislature with the 68, but that's not my point. My point is, we can follow the federal requirements and our Constitution the way it is now. It would be a huge legislature, but it can be done. So we are not null and void, because we can follow both, we just choose not to. We are not null and void on Article 3, Section 3. You can follow it. The Constitution even provides for creating more counties. It's all in the Constitution.
It is there, yes.
And so that article is not null and void. It can be followed. We choose not to. We don't want 230 representatives for whatever reason. But you cannot have someone tell you that it's null and void because of the feds. We just choose not to follow our Constitution, and if we don't want a legislature that's 230 people as representatives, then amend the state constitution. Keep the bounty boundaries, county lines, and change something else in Article 3, Section 3. Change the ratio of senators to reps, or something different, or whatever Carrie's person has that could follow both. But don't let anyone tell you that Article 3, Section 3 is null and void. It can be followed.
Yeah, we've talked about that. It's not really null and void. It's just that whenever you broach that issue, the first thing they say, well, I thought you didn't want to grow government. Now you're talking about near 250 representatives.
Who said they don't want to grow government? The founders didn't.
No, but I'm saying, that's what they're saying. So
It's a choice.
a real question that I've been asked is, where are you going to put them?
Well, that's fine. If we don't want to do that, I'm fine with that. And like I told you at the last meeting, if they want to amend our constitution to say, let's let the legislators gerrymander lines wherever they want in accordance with whoever has the most power, and it gets ratified by the people, at least you're following your constitution. I don't want that. I'm not saying I want that, but my point is we're not following the Constitution. Change the Constitution or follow the Constitution.
Yeah. Dan?
To the point, Don had a question to me and I'll address it in a minute. As far as this, the concerned citizens have worked on this at 14, and 2 different county commissioners, sets of commissioners, have backed this, okay? And when we decided to do this, Chip and, Chairman of the Republican Party, Frank said, please hold off till after the election. So we did. Okay. And we made a stumble, on a stumble. No foul, no play, So here's the thing. We agreed, and I got some real flack from the concerned citizens when I said I personally would do that, but it was up to the group. Well, personally, I did that, and I explained to them, and I'll put it in branch language or military language, whatever you need. We did that. But the election that we waited for got you in, got Frank on board, and we got all these things. Now, we have to get you up to the table and let this thing work forward. So, if we have to fall back and do a clock again, I'm all for it. And we'll correct the step we missed. We will have 3 names, and my question is, if we send that down, then once Frank gets it, and the commissioners appoint them, is there a clock that says they have to be in 5 days? I don't think there is.
I've never seen a clock that says anything like that.
Okay, so it can set the...
Carrie's got a question, she may say something.
So to William's point and to your point, if you're looking for a political solution to the problem, then you have to make sure that the political pieces are all in the right spot, and your timing is important. So, what was your question?
We know we got 5 days to do
Okay,
this.
so the way the process works is it starts with the county commissioners. The party is the middle piece. So it starts with the county commissioners declaring the vacancy. When the vacancy is declared, the party then has 15 days to hold a meeting to forward 3 names. The 3 names are forwarded, and then the county commissioners have 5 days to respond to those 3 names and make their final selection. That's the way the statute's written.
Okay, so what happens after that point?
Yeah, what happens after the 5 days?
So what normally happens with a normal vacancy, so say county commissioner became vacant tomorrow, right? The party puts forward the names, the county commissioners choose the one name that is going to be the nominee, and then that person goes right in top.
Okay.
So.
But you have to have an alternate. That's what Frank was saying. Normally they go 1, 2, 3. What happens if somebody backs out and he nominates?
You don't
have a
have
2 or 3 public meeting. He said you can't do it.
That's not a
I
problem.
don't understand.
That's not a problem.
So
So with normal vacancies, do you have to have 3 names?
So normal vacancy is what would happen is when the county commissioners received the 3 names, they would then hold interviews and determine who the final candidate is, and then they would offer that person the job. And what happens after, I don't know if it's if you have your 3, if you did it like a normal job interview, which is a step that was kind of missed. If you did it as a normal job interview, you would have your 3 candidates there, and they would all be there to tell you if they wanted the job or not. So that was the part that was missing, was the candidates were not there. So when William's name was chosen, had he been at the meeting, then he would have been able to say, don't choose me, choose somebody else. If that's what he wants.
I was at the meeting and had to go. It was my anniversary. I was there an hour.
Yep,
Nobody
that's
asked me.
That's correct, William. I'm saying you're right, at the Weston County Republican Party, we could have done that as well. I was talking about the county commissioner meeting, and you weren't noticed as to when that meeting was going to be. So that was the part that was meant.
Okay, Danny.
The second part of that is, Don asked me, he said, where is there a statute that says the county commissioners can do this, appoint this, declare this vacancy, and do it? If we were following the Constitution, it would be solved. That's exactly how we do it. What we don't understand is, by resolution, the county says we're going by the Constitution. And this book gives the county commissioners the authority to do that. And the legislature is saying, you don't have no authority because we're ignoring it.
Which is the people that we're sending our people.
Right. But if Chip and the body, because the House, if the House passes it, the Senate is sunk. Because they're going to have to come back and argue that the House did something unconstitutional. And they can't. And I think the majority of the people in this state, Republican, Democrat, liberals, whatever, still believes in the right of the republic for people. And the Constitution is to be followed. If you don't follow the Constitution, then it's worse than a democracy. We're into anarchy. The only thing that separates us from anarchy is this document.
Legislative dictatorship, not anarchy. You get a Cromwell.
So, if we do this, just a scenario, go ahead, let's let the legislature get situated. We're gonna start the clock over anyway.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So, we let the legislature meet.
No, it's not
Yeah,
gonna
but-
happen. It will
yeah,
not be
but-
supported after January.
So if we follow what Dan is saying and what was outlined, where you see the legislature then puts forward a resolution that we're gonna redistrict, and we're gonna follow our constitution and redistrict around county lines, then it's not on the county commissioners anymore.
Right.
The legislature gave you a directive, so the county commissioners don't have a choice.
And
but
when
to
they
go on.
do that, if they pass that legislation, they have declared the vacancy.
Correct.
And so and here's the thing, 2 things about your idea, Trish, about going down there. You've never seen me even mad. But if you've seen my angry, mad dog face, I don't even like me. And that will be confrontation. And that's what people saying right now. Them guys in Weston County think they can just bull their way in there. Who in the heck are they? But if we do it this way, let the legislature get in there, then we've got at least a caucus, which is pretty much statewide. I mean, representatives from each corner of the state.
We lost one representative in the general, but we kept everybody else, so we're looking at approximately 38 to 40.
But it's no longer northeast Wyoming.
Oh, no. No,
See
it's
what I'm
very
saying?
broad.
And so the Senate is gonna have a hard time going back to their people and saying, those representatives, them dirty, no good Wyoming people are trying to supersede the Constitution, and we're not. It's gonna clearly state that they are going to uphold the Constitution the same as our county commissioner said. And so they're gonna have to find support. The people will support this issue. That's why they did it in the first place, because they knew the people of Wyoming would not support the unconstitutional deal. So they said, we're not gonna bring the Constitution, because they could have done it, just like Trish said, back in '92, put an amendment on the Constitution and amended the Constitution. But they knew it would not pass. And I don't think it'd pass again now, because the deep state is shrinking even in Wyoming. And there's a swamp in Wyoming just as deep and just as ugly and stinky as there is in Washington, D.C. So I say, fall back, forget, I'm with Don, let's forget what we did, not go back, clear back.
No, I'm not saying that.
We're still gonna run with the county resolution, but we have to go back to where we start to talk again. Because we're not gonna notify Frank until the legislature is seated, which is actually the second step to when we originally held back because of the election to get people through. We knew after the primary, it's done in Wyoming. The election's done.
Normally, yes.
And Frank was too busy to work on it at the time. And Chuck Gray has got his hands full. And that man is running 24/7 right now.
Fuller now than it was even before. Yes, Wade.
How can this caucus there, how can the concerned citizens best help your work with the conservative caucus?
By and large, the folks that are with me, that will be supporting me as speaker, agree with what you're trying to do. They support our Constitution, and they're there to support our Constitution. So the vote, yes, Dan?
Right now, the hottest topic nationwide.
Can't you let him answer my question?
I'm sorry.
He called on me.
When his arm was waving, I'm so used to just saying, what do you want? To your point,
the group can do this would be supportive of your work with the caucus.
the big push, William, for people that are supporting this are from the lower rural counties, like Niobrara, like Washakie, Hot Springs, Crook, Weston, all these counties that have populations that are far below municipal populations in these bigger counties. Albany, Laramie, Teton, Natrona, all of them, they're less excited about what's happening here because right now it's working towards their benefit. Majority vote on everything. That just works great for them. If there's issues that are coming on, I have more representatives, I have more power and stroke. What you're talking about doing, if you go to 23 counties, we already have 31 senators. Now, to your point the other day, talking about this, how is it, and you can clarify this for me, what is the verbiage on there regarding senators? Is that you can only have at least one, but no more than three, and the House can be no more than 3 times the Senate. Is that correct? 2 or 3. How does it go?
It has to be, Article 3, Section 3 specifies that for each district,
Which is
bounded by county lines,
Yes.
it's not the county, it's the district, the legislature. For each district, there shall be a minimum of 1 senator and 1 representative. Article 3, Section 3 also specifies there be a 1-to-3 ratio between the House and the Senate.
No, 2 to 3.
2 to 3, thank you. And that, back in the federal litigation, the Warren case, for example, which the footnote cites too, the legislature's attorneys got the case settled by agreeing with the judge, telling the judge, there's a fundamental principle to the Wyoming Constitution, the principle of smallness. That's what the case says. That's what they call it. Now, I searched the Wyoming Constitution for the word smallness. I can't find it. I did find the Wyoming Constitution provides for growth, population, legislature, etc. But that's what they did. They settled the litigation. Okay, before, and read that footnote, because of conditions then existing in Wyoming in '92. Well, the conditions then existing in Wyoming in '92 were that the court was tired of the legislature repeatedly ignoring what the court was telling it, which was you gotta follow one man, one vote. So if you in the caucus can't do what we're hoping, if you can say we're gonna stop, we're gonna ignore the footnote about ignoring, we're actually gonna follow our Constitution. You know, if you, then the conditions in 92 will no longer be the conditions. You had a legislature that wouldn't follow both constitutions. And I'm really nervous about this talk with support, the way you, I'm sure it's coming that way, but these people in the other rural counties need to understand, if they turn this fight into, instead of a fight to have someone from their district that they know where they live, they know their telephone number, they live in the same district, that fight, and turn it into a, we want to turn back the clock 50, 60 years and have rural America dominate urban America, you're gonna lose. Don't cast the fight that way. This is a fight that everybody has somebody in the legislature and follow the Constitution or amend it.
Now, you mentioned amending it the other day when we were in Newcastle. What was your suggestion in amending? What were some thoughts that you had on that?
I actually don't have a suggestion. I just want it either amended so we're following it, or we follow it the way it is now. I actually don't have a suggestion. I just want it either amended so we're following it, or we follow it the way it is now. And if I had to put up with an amendment that said we're gonna gerrymander lines all over the hell and they can get the public to ratify that, then I'll sit down and shut up. I just want the Constitution followed. So I'm interested in Carrie's piece of paper that's the closest you can get. I don't care. I want to follow both constitutions.
See, and that's a resolution that we got to have passed by 2/3 of both houses.
To follow the Constitution?
To change our Constitution.
Well, and then it still needs ratified by the people.
Yes. I've got to have 2/3 of each house, and I've got to have a majority vote of
Then what we need to do is have a huge legislature, unless Carrie's person has a way to avoid that.
Go ahead.
I think maybe I could send you something. I have long thought of Article 3, Section 3 as a puzzle, the picture puzzle. The phrases, the different phrases, sub-phrases, clauses of Article 3, Section 3. And look at it, I see them as individual parts. Minimum one senator, minimum one rep, ratio 2 to 3. Lines shall be counting lines, et cetera, et cetera. You see these little parts? In the Goring case, the federal judge went with, let's ignore that little part of 3.3 that says the district lines are county lines. Well, what if you don't ignore that, but you change some other little part? And that opens up quite a few interesting ways to amend 3.3. Just not agreeing with the federal judge. Wyoming's better off if we keep county lines, but take this section out, like the 2 to 3 ratio. That would be my favorite part to throw in the trash can by constitutional amendment. That would allow you to follow both constitutions without such a gigantic legislature.
Okay.
There's nothing in there that says we have to have a gigantic legislature. That's nonsense. The United States of America has 435 people as a 465 in the House. That was set, as a limit set, and then it's proportional to the states by the size of the population. There's no reason why we can't, as a republic state, do exactly the same thing. We can decide that we want to have no more than 60 or 70 or 40 people in the House. Now that affects the ratio to the Senate. There has to be at least one, but let's say that we figure out that there's going to be 30 senators. Just pull a number out of the air.
You're close, we have 31 now. But
I know, that's why I pulled it out. But, okay, we have 23 of that, so that's 7 left over. So by population, we have to put those other 7 in population centers. Because it also says in there, it's what William's not bringing up, it surprises me. The way the Constitution reads is that the Senate can have 1 to 3 people depending upon population. So you've got still the ratio there, and so that would be divvied up by population. But it's not going to be an exact match to, let's take the smallest county, Niobrara, and divide it into the biggest county and see what we've got, or divide it into the total population.
And that's the perception.
Yeah, and that's not there anywhere in the Constitution. It basically sets up the ratios, but the legislature can decide what the number of people are in the House, which then, according to the ratios, tells us how many people are in the Senate.
Based on the Constitution.
Right, based on the Constitution.
The federal Constitution.
Yeah, that's the federal no. I completely disagree with you on that, William.
All right, we'll disagree.
We'll disagree, because we are a sovereign state. I don't care what it says. We are a sovereign state. There's 50 sovereign states in this United States of America. Now, the feds can step in on the federal, like our representative, our senators to the federal government. They've got jurisdiction over that. They do not have jurisdiction over what we do in this state. That's where the differences are. They can't say a goddamn thing.
So now, for my own edification then, what prompted it? What prompted the change in '92?
The footnote Warren case that cited.
Warren v. Carter.
Yeah. Came about because earlier, that was a continued case. Earlier, the matter had been in federal litigation, and the judge had said, you know, you guys, legislators, you're not following the federal constitutional requirements. You need to do that, but I'm not the right person to apportion the state of Wyoming. Why don't you guys go and do it? And here's what you need to, the math you need to follow. Well, the legislature ignored them. They blew them off. They said, they argued, counties are our traditional communities, that we don't need to, we're like the federal government, we're not like these other states. We can have this compact like the federal legislature has, 2 senators for every state, no matter how many people. They made all these arguments. The judge was just exasperated. He said, I'm tired of, I handed it to you, you blew it. So we're going to settle this litigation. You're going to have an election, and you're going to apportion the state for the election. And to do that under the conditions now existing in the state, you can ignore county lines or the district lines. The legislature just, and that thinking, I still hear it all around you. People are crazy if they want to challenge the feds. And if you think Wyoming's sovereignty is not curtailed by we the people that founded the federal government, set up the federal constitution. Yeah, the people set that constitution up too.
No, but
and it applies, it gives no authority to the legislature of the state to do anything. But it sets a condition that the legislature, whatever it does, whatever it wants to do for elections, also needs to comply with equal protection.
You got a problem there, because if you're taking a look at that, we have the original 13 states. We're set up as a republic. And every other state in the union still has to follow that same plan. You can't exempt 13 states from 50 states.
You ask these people in this room, let's see, is anybody here willing to be only a member of the we the people that founded the state of Wyoming and have a constitution? Or are you also part of the people that founded the United States of America?
We are.
Do you want to concede that?
No, I'm not conceding.
Then that constitution applies.
That's not true. But the issue we have here is that, yes, we are sovereign, but we're only sovereign in certain areas, which is specifically delineated in the Constitution of the United States.
You need to buy me coffee so we don't eat up this whole meeting.
Do we bring,
Dan,
if we bring suit, what do? Bring suit against the legislature for not following the Constitution?
from what I gather, that's what it would be, is that we're not following the Constitution. You guys are suing us to require that the legislature follow the
Are
Constitution.
you
state
aware
Constitution.
what the penalties are for not following the Constitution?
Not offhand.
But it would have to be a suit, it would have to be a suit brought by like the people in this room,
Yes.
not by the county. Like William said, it's a good point. We are the people of this district.
It would be a class action.
Well, whatever, I don't know, but I'm just saying, it's not county commissioners leading this charge.
No,
If it's a
it would be the
lawsuit,
people
like
of the
William
county.
said.
It's basically saying you've been disenfranchised.
Yes.
Yes, that sounds right.
Dan?
I was back, started this once. Right now, the hottest topic in the United States and in the state of Wyoming, if you don't believe so, just go watch the state canvassing, is elections. Okay. You've already said before the meeting got started that there's a lot of resolutions or legislation being proposed.
A bunch.
I contend you can't hold an election until you follow the Constitution. So the first thing you're going to have to do to hold an integrity of an election is follow the Constitution that says we can have an election. And it clearly says you have to go by county lines for districts. So, and I'm against letting the legislature do anything about voting on whether we amend the Constitution or not until our district gets some representation down there on equal footing. Because if you do it before we go back to the constitutional districts, then it's a null and void issue anyway. Because how can you have integrity when you're not following the law that sets you up? The first thing you're going to have to do, in my mind, to have any kind of legal integrity in an election is go back to the authority you have. And the state has no authority not granted to them by the Constitution. So we have to do that first. And then the legislature, once you do that, then we can go back in and put our representatives in, which the Constitution says, and then we have the authority to alter the Constitution if we want to. But without our representation in there right now, 2/3 of the Senate, if that's what it takes to get an amendment on the ballot, doesn't have that authority. Because not all the districts are represented on that vote equally, at least one. So I think the approach is to go with integrity of elections. And Chuck Gray is all about that. And from what I've seen of the 5 elected officials, they're saying it, whether it might just be talk. I don't know if they'll walk the walk, but they're talking integrity is important.
Well, and that's the thing we found with this deal that happened right here in Weston County, is it has completely changed the dynamic of what we have to work with in the state of Wyoming right now. Up until this point, there was very little interest in doing anything about our elections. They believed that they were not foolproof, but there's nothing to see here. And that these machines work good, and there's no reason for having to go back and do hand counts or anything like that. But that's been proven otherwise. So that argument's gone. And so that's why everybody's moving forward with this right now.
And on that deal, integrity, you can't have one clerk sending their results to 2 other clerks and have integrity. Your integrity has got to go.
He doesn't trust the clerks.
Your votes, Chip.
Yes.
Your county clerk over there didn't know that you didn't get any votes in Weston County until we found it here.
Right.
So there's, to have real integrity, who are you going to hold? If say that happened, how do we know something didn't happen in Crook County? Me and Dan knew instantly something was wrong. We knew more people than that voted for you. But nobody in Crook County knew that.
Oh, no.
Okay, so for integrity, you have to have somebody you can reach out and grab by the throat and say, you're at fault, you're responsible. That's the county clerk. But the county clerk is not running the election. She's running this part, but we don't know what got voted for down there. JD, they made a rigged ballots down there for JD. Allen might have won. We don't know. we're going by that clerk. And I can't reach out and grab her by the throat. So we have to go back to that to start the whole thing. If we don't have that, we have nothing in an election. I don't think there's any damn sense voting.
That's a really good argument.
It is. To your point, William, that you were asking earlier about what you guys can do to help, I need votes. I need other members of the House to support this solid. And so the only thing I can do is I can ask you guys to reach out to people in other districts and other counties and get their support and explain to them why it's necessary to support this motion, this move to change and to basically say, you know what, we're not going to just go along with what the federal said, that we're going to vote to support and to uphold our Wyoming state constitution in our elections and how we district. It's going to boil down to votes. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple things. As far as sending the people down to Cheyenne, as a commissioner, I feel uncomfortable about that, and John does too. Probably just because of my feeling of protection, I feel like there's some responsibility on myself. Sending you down there to face the firing squad and get ate up by the press. Is the press going to be a good thing? Maybe it'd be a good thing. Maybe we get press that helped the cause. I doubt it, as we've seen by liberal press going after us. That will be up to you to do. Ultimately, I think it'll be up to your group to decide if you want to go down there and make that statement. The other thing about the resolution that we have to do over again, can we put something in the resolution because this is kind of an anomaly and the vacancy requirements doesn't really match or meet a normal situation. Can we put something in the resolution about when things are redistricted back into the constitutional part of it, then those people would go down there? I mean, is there some, instead of having the normal 5 days and going to Frank and having so many days and making it look like they have to go down there right away, can we put some statement in there that would require them to go once the redistricting is done?
William.
As far as I understand the statutory process being followed, the commissioners are granted the authority by the statute to fill the vacancies, but no authority to set conditions further, like what you shall wear, or when you shall appear, what vehicle you'll travel in. Just fill the vacancy, make the appointment. That's their authority.
See, this is one thing they sent me, and Danny, did you want to speak to that point? Okay. This is one thing he sent me as well. This is under Chapter 22, which is in the election laws here and stuff like that. 22-18-101, when deemed to occur, a vacancy shall occur in elective office if during his term the incumbent either, and it gives the list, dies, resigns, is determined by a court having jurisdiction to be mentally incompetent, is disqualified from upholding office for the person's specific clause, convicted of a felony or constituting a breach of his oath of office, refuses to take the oath, which his oath of office is to uphold the Constitution, so right there you can get rid of all of them. So refuses to take the oath of office or is given, and it goes down through it and lists it, and it lays it out very clearly the way our statute said it, where what determines a vacancy. And that is some of the discussion that I've had pointed to me is, Chip, do you serve that district or not? I'm like, well, according to what I understood before this all took place, is I was the district representative for that portion of that. Well, then what we're saying is, you're looking at two sets. You're looking at the district set up basically by the determination of the redistricting board versus the county. Currently, actually, you guys have a district representative in Alice Lake who lives in Weston County. But how does that work?
Please don't conflate districts created by the legislature with districts created by the Constitution.
But here's my question, William. With Alan being a Weston County resident,
in this district, which would be
No,
Weston County.
oh,
Is he
yeah.
currently your?
Yeah, see, he is a resident of the district bounded by the county lines.
Right.
That doesn't make him the representative from that district. He's the representative of a district created by the legislature that crosses county lines.
But now I'm just, from my own understanding, if you're gonna go in based on what the Constitution says, and we should be adhering to the Constitution, does the Constitution, in its way it's written, our state Constitution, say that Allen is...
I'm proud of Weston County, even though I don't live there anymore. I'm proud of Weston County for standing up and saying, we need to preserve our small communities. They need to have a preserved voice in state government. And I don't know how it's going to pan out. I don't know if these are the greatest candidates that we're sending down there, but it doesn't matter. It's about the principle. And I'm glad that they're forcing a conversation.
And that's exactly what they're doing, is they're forcing a conversation. Nobody knows how it's going to pan out. Nobody knows how long things could sit in court. Nobody knows what's going to happen if those two show up down in Cheyenne in January for the session. Nobody knows, but nobody's going to find out. Nobody's going to know what change could happen by this action unless somebody takes the action and grows some cojones and says enough is enough. We're not going to let these bigger communities and the legislators from these bigger communities, fully rural communities.
If you're gonna go in based on what the Constitution says, and we should be adhering to the Constitution, does the Constitution, in its way it's written, our state Constitution, say that Allen is your district representative, and the only way that you can replace him is the fact that he is not in your county because he hasn't resigned or died, and he's a Weston County resident according to that Constitution?
The answer is no. The Constitution does not say that Allen is the representative from the district bounded by the county lines.
So you're saying he was elected by means other than respected by the Constitution?
He was elected to a district created by the legislature in contravention of the Wyoming Constitution.
All right, I get that. Okay, Trish.
The resolution passed by the commissioners replaced Jerry Dixon and Tisdale, who do qualify under one of those. 1992, we had Jerry Dixon and what's Tisdale? Loris Tisdale. That's who they're replacing. That's the last people who filled those positions. It's right in the resolution.
Okay. Who else? Somebody else had their hand up. Dan Fouch.
I guess the whole deal is, you're talking statutes, we're talking Constitution.
Right, and that's what they're telling, that's what they're talking. You know, that's what we're left to try to operate underneath is the statutes. Instead, so. Yes, sir.
Well, I just have a question on, so if you go, the legislature, the new legislature changes that, or you decide to override what was there?
Go back to our original document and our state.
So once you pass that, then instantly, what does that do to?
The federal government, I would say, is probably going to come after us like a bite in the south. Because they're going to say, hey, you guys are not following us, and then we'll just have to defend. It's no different than what we were doing before when we weren't listening to them and saying, no, we're going to do our own thing out here. And
it's a world of difference. It's a world of difference. Weston County, I don't know all these other counties and people you talk to, but Weston County concerned citizens and majority of the Board of Commissioners have voted to ask the legislature to follow the Constitution and not voted to ask them to ignore, piss off, contravene the federal Constitution.
Oh, no, I don't think we're wanting to say that, William. I'm just saying that that is probably what the next step will be. It's not because we're wanting to bring that on ourselves.
Yes, they'll claim that.
That's right.
That's why I am so worried about how the matter is framed. Do not frame it as going back 60 years and giving rural voters more power than one man, one vote would give them, because you're in federal court and you lose.
Basically, you're saying there's two things here. There's the real and the official. The real is we want, I'm sorry, I got it back. Official is we want to follow the Constitution. But what Chip is saying, the real is, what's motivating the other counties is we want the rural vote to stay there. So that's the difference between the two. And William's basically telling you, stay with the official, not the real.
Okay, Stan had his hand up first, then I'll come to you. Stan.
So, I think it's important, it's been said before, that we fill these vacancies, and we send one senator, one Weston County State Representative down there, as usual, and let these current legislators deny aren't seeing us and violate the constitutional right that they swore to uphold, or our constitution that they swore to uphold. That gives us a grievance when we go forward. If it does end up in a court of law, we have a grievance. I think it's important to go on the record. I think it's important to have, it's uncomfortable as it is. I understand Commissioner Uber's thoughts and stuff, but the people that I know that the night that they were nominated, the ones that were there, talked specifically about this fight and how this fight was going to be a tough fight. And so I don't think delaying this until the new legislature is possibly the proper way. What would happen is once these people are denied their seats, then also the new legislation will have ammunition to work also. By saying the Constitution was not followed, and therefore we're seeking to rectify the problem. And this is our record.
Stan, that's why we're having this meeting.
Yeah.
I am literally here just to tell you, I care enough about y'all that when you go down there, I don't want you to be blindsided and just, hey, guess what, and it's gonna be enough chaos and stuff like that and working around there, just knowing that that's what there's potential to happen. Now, as far as the argument that it would say that this will shed a light on it, yes, there is no question that this will bring more impetus and pressure to this situation. If you guys are even up in the gallery, and me from the speaker's chair was willing to identify you guys in the gallery, ladies and gentlemen, these are the folks that are here to fight for the Constitution of the state of Wyoming. These are the delegation that was sent down. The representative-elect delegate, designate and the senatorial designate are here in the gallery right now to bring attention to the legislation that and if we're doing that, then we could be looking at that on the floor. They're here because they really do genuinely love and care for our state constitution. That's why they're here. They're not just talking about it. They made the trip down here. They're here right now.
I just want to add that.
Recognize that, and that would also be with it. But whatever it takes to do that, folks, I'm with you. But I like I said, I will say this again, and I know this is not probably good for a 58-year-old man to tell a group of other older gentlemen and ladies in here that I love you, but I do, and I just don't want you guys to go down and walk into a shitstorm and then wonder what the heck happened. Neiman, did you know this was going to potentially happen for you? And we all showed that you could have at least cared enough about us to have us. I'm just telling you, that's what their perception is. What we're wanting to do is try to change that, and this has been a very good discussion.
So
I thank God that I've been here to hear this.
That I appreciate you coming and doing this today.
Yeah.
And informing us out front.
And I wanted to do it soon enough.
And we also be there to support you for Speaker of the House.
Well, I tell you what, what would be really great? If you guys all came down and got up in the gallery with your people.
You guys can thank us for Osage letting in our representative today. Going back to what they're saying, the idea of waiting, Don made it perfectly clear, speaking for the commissioners, they opened the gate, we hit the first landmine. Now in the military, you can say, that's the only one, let's go on down the road. Or you can say, wait a minute, let's call in the mining sweepers, okay? So we hit a mine land, let's call in the sweepers. That gives us time. But to this, I heard the comment, well, Trump needs to appoint a couple new judges. Well, not only are we going to get a new leader, which has been my goal all along, as Chip Speaker of the House, we got him there, we got to give him time to do the work. He's going to call in the mine sweepers, we're going to move as many mines as we can. But
I will do that.
The new Attorney General is Matt Getz. And I happened to meet the guy in Cheyenne on the steps of the Capitol. I didn't see the governor there all day. He spoke his head out between the highway patrol and weaseled a little. But Matt Gates was out there speaking for the people. And I believe if we have to go to federal, the Attorney General of the United States, if he gets in and lives that long, may be on our side to support the Constitution.
I wish you'd quit using verbiage like that.
So, and I don't like to send him down there because it makes it look like we're bullheaded and we're just gonna force our way. When they did this, they snuck around and got the commissioners at that time to sign away their rights, which they cannot do. The Constitution did not give them that right, but they sneaked it in. They didn't force it. Each county commissioner took the rap in their county, not the state legislature. So I'm all for less just cooler heads, because once you get a head of steam up, either the kettle blows or something, and I don't want that.
I'm with Stan on this one. When you send someone like Carl Lacey down there, he's not gonna fight the sergeant at arms. There's not gonna be a video of him trying to resist arrest or anything like that. It's gonna be very calm. And if the newspaper talks to him, he's gonna say some very intelligent things to open people's minds. And like you said, if he can get into the gallery, okay, then he can get in the gallery. I don't see why not to do this. If you send two people down there that aren't going to embarrass us by doing something weird.
It would help if somebody would get punched in the face. I mean, that would feel
Not going to happen with Carl.
But whatever.
But I'm half wondering if this group has shown the interest and the commissioners here as just a member of the public, not as commissioners. Is it time to take a vote on this so that Don and Garrett and Vera have support for whatever happens tomorrow? Are they going to appoint a senator or not? It's tomorrow. It's scheduled for tomorrow at 10:20. And I'd like to hear from Carl, if you're willing, of what you feel after hearing.
Well, and I got one more. William wants to speak.
Could you address the difference between the power to fill the vacancies and the legislature's power to seat or not seat members? But the way I read it, the power to fill the vacancies in the county commissioners, not in the legislature, but that's a different power.
Honestly, William, I would tell you that the legislature has the ability and will be asked to vote to seat those legislators.
To seat. Thank you.
Yes. That's a vote.
So I ask that because tomorrow is something our commissioners can do or choose not to. It's not the same question facing the legislature.
No, it is not.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, Don.
Hopefully everybody understands here. All of the commissioners don't have to be convinced of that this is the right thing to do. And I'm talking about the ones that sometimes I agree with and don't disagree with. They agree with it too. They presented a different approach, a letter of support, you're well aware of that, a letter of support without the resolution. My point to you guys is I kind of believe in the fact that we need to have our ducks in a row. If you guys want to do this and send them down there, that was the word that I gave, and I think the commissioners gave will do that. But I don't want anyone to be embarrassed because we didn't have our ducks in a row, because we did that once. We make sure that we do the right steps, and we follow it the way we have the best chance to achieve it. But there's not one commissioner that doesn't agree with the Constitution. It's the process that we need to get sorted out, and how it's presented, so that, frankly, we don't look like we're clueless.
And the effort on my part, and will be JD's, was to work with our other legislators to help them see the need for this. But that also, to William's point, is helping you guys with influence in other areas in the state to talk to those new legislators and those to say.
Personally, I have a ton of respect for Carl, and I don't want to send him down there to the wolves to be embarrassed.
Well, I
don't want to do that.
I don't believe that will be the case, but I also know this, everybody's laying to see what's gonna happen with this. And that can be a positive thing, because you've already sent a shockwave through the state of Wyoming. I think Kerry would be able to almost agree to that. And that's in my conversation with Brian Shuck. He said, if you've done nothing else, he said, you've shined a light on this more focused and made more clear than ever previous of how important this is, and how that it's getting more and more important to these other counties in the state that we should follow our Constitution. And I know William about blows his head off every time I say this, but I hope this is a Benny on the side, is that the reality of it is doing what our state constitution says helps us protect our state. From the standpoint of, as I watch redistricting, and I watch quite frankly, the conservative vote diminishing. Kerry.
I just wanted to say, to echo what you just said, you guys have moved this so far forward that
It made it to a management council meeting, I can tell you that. You dropped into people's heads.
It's awesome. It's wonderful, and we'll keep up with this momentum. Just be very careful that at this point, with success in the headlights, that you don't destroy your message with your motives, or your motives with your message. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
Don't destroy your message.
I
Keep
do,
the
and
momentum going forward.
And I could have to agree with Kerry. I mean, the conversation has now started, and this isn't going to go away. And so people are starting to be aware of the implications of this. And when you boil it down, like what William did, to this and Trish, either follow the Constitution or change it. That's a pretty compelling argument. You know, and what legislator is going to say, no, we're just going to forget the Constitution? Well, there's been too much of that. So the point of it is that we've got to follow it. Yes, sir. You've not spoke up, so go ahead, and then I'll follow up with the Trump gentleman. You're Mr. Burrows, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got you that information you asked for, didn't I?
I appreciate it.
Okay, very good.
Chip, you've heard a lot here today, and you said it's been helpful.
Oh, yes.
We kind of got to narrow in on a path. And I'd like to hear, have you kind of formulated in your head a recommendation you could make to us based on what you've heard now? I, for one, think we absolutely should go. I think we have to continue, and knowing that we're going to be turned away, and no, you know, not bulldog our way, and we have to do it correctly, and we have
Nobody
to.
was ever
We have
suggesting a fist fight.
no, and I agree with that.
Give us a break.
But it's out there, guys. This is huge, and they're waiting to see what we're going to do. Are we going to defend what we placed forward? And I think we have to. But that doesn't mean just make an appearance. We were turned down. That sends a big statement to me. But I would like to hear what your recommendation is now. And what's our path?
I would say that your path at this point is to continue to do what you're doing, and at the very least, send your delegates down there. Yes. To have them received, you know, to be recognized, and to make clear that you're not quitting. That this is not just because it got difficult that you quit.
I think
They
that's
already
what
know
wanna
that,
see.
and they even mentioned that to me. By all means, tell them to come. Tell them to come, be in the gallery, like Brian said, be in the gallery, be recognized. That's what those people are there for. Ladies and gentlemen of the 68th legislature, these folks up here, this is who they are, this is where they're from, it's gotten to this point. And it becomes very real. The conversation's already started. To your point, we could keep going. You've already gotten into management council. You've got to talk to all the leadership saying, this is coming, guys. These people are, this commission made a vote, they're sending people down here. I think having at this point, the reality of it is that, shoot me, I don't think you're not going to get seated. That's just not going to happen at this point, because there's just too many forces against that. But the reality of it is, you coming down there, making yourselves known, making yourselves visible, be available for the media to be able to chat with, ask the questions, have that discussion, be in the building, but also, from what we're talking about here, being able to move forward with talking to these other representatives and getting the support, because ultimately that's going to boil down to a vote on the floor. And are they going to be willing to support the work that you've done with a majority vote on the floor? And are they going to be willing to support the work that you've done with a majority vote on the floor to move that ball down the field? So to me, there's nothing wrong with this. I just didn't want you guys to get blindsided or wonder what's going to go on. I just wanted you to be informed about what it looks like, be able to make decisions accordingly. But I do not believe you should let up now. You need to keep going. Carrie and then Mike.
So if you're thinking about next step forward, Chip recognizing this movement from the floor is huge. And being up in the gallery and having your speaker recognize this movement is huge. The next step for you guys, if you're interested in building coalitions, is February 15th is the next Wyoming Republican Party meeting, and it's at the National Military Vehicle Museum, which is an awesome place if you haven't been there. But that is the next Wyoming GOP meeting, and if you were looking for a place to build coalitions, I would suggest you go there. And we all know it's a fabulous place, so I would suggest that as the next step. That is right in the middle of the legislative session, so if something does come up, you can build coalitions down there to help move that legislation forward.
Because they will talk to their legislatures, who I will deal with on the floor and will need their support.
I don't know if anybody knows these all calls.
Here, how about you come get this microphone? If you're gonna go down and be a legislator, be willing to stand up there with a microphone. There you go.
Is that too loud?
No, it's perfect. Perfect.
Okay, I'm at a point of there's a lot of information in this room, and it's almost to the point of overflow. I mean, my head is, but I'm at the point, and something that Chip said was, I'm gonna vote the way my constituents want me to vote.
I am.
And that's the point that I want to make. Politicians throughout my lifetime have told me what they're going to do for me, asked me what I wanted. When I've told them, they do what they want. They don't care what I think as a constituent. And I admire Chip for saying that. And that's what I would do. If you want me to go to the door and they're not going to let me in, that's what I'll do. If you want me to go to the gallery and sit, that's what I'll do. Just to be recognized, and it's a good point. So either way, that's what I want to do. Where I'd like to go.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
And we need to be we all need to go? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, Phil.
Yeah.
Then we'll go. I mean, that just makes sense. You'd all be down there and just, and just recognize the delegation from Weston County and their guy is with them up there. This is the people support this. Yes, sir. That was going to go to you next.
My only concern is if we're doing this to recognize our Constitution. So if I go down there, you know what the media is going to do and everybody's going to. So have we followed our Constitution in the way that we seated it?
You're going to double check everything. Yeah.
I mean, that's my...
And that's the thing. I mean, and it's very true. You just want to make sure, to Don's point, you want to make sure all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. They're going to double check everything. And when it boils right down to the fact of either we're going to follow our Constitution or we're not going to follow it, and then be ready to give the argument about why our Constitution should be followed as opposed to what the U.S. Constitution says or the determinations made by these court directives. You know, be able to have a good, honest answer to this, because they're going to ask. This is going to be a big deal. I mean, this is going to be a big deal. You guys just showing up is going to send a shockwave through them.
Harry's was just to make sure that we don't, cancel this side over here to just use this side.
What you need to do is have somebody like a Carrie Drost or Trish or William Curley or somebody, whatever your designates, figure out a couple, 2 or 3 of your folks, come in there, and you guys be the spokesman. And the rest of you be there to support them in this effort.
I agree.
And be able to have the person that's versed in it, be able to speak to the issue, say what's going on, how we've gotten to this point, what your idea is, what you're wanting to try to accomplish, and then, quite frankly, you need to make the argument, this is not just about Weston County. The argument is, this is about upholding our Constitution, and we're here to do that. And we see a problem in our system where we have moved away from our constitutional responsibilities, and we're here to challenge that and to say, we need to have this discussion, this has got to be different, this has got to be changed. Or, to Tricia's point, if you're not going to follow it, then we're here as a group to say, then you guys as a legislature need to change it. And allow the people of the state of Wyoming to make that adjustment. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to change what we do and then how we do it. Yes, Dan, and then Stan. Dan, well, you guys.
Can I get a show of hands how many people would be willing to go down? Good deal.
The more the better. It really does. Stan.
So just quickly to answer Carl's question, go down, be denied your seat, and then go to the gallery and be represented.
And to the spokesman, who would be our spokesperson?
Carl.
Okay, but you said it wouldn't necessarily be Carl.
No, not necessarily, but they're going to interview him.
They
He's the
are,
guy.
but Carl, you want somebody next to you. You want somebody side by side as to help you with some, because these are complex. I mean, I would think it would have to be Dan or William.
Tom?
We still have a senator to 14th of January is when we set. What is being done about that?
It's scheduled for tomorrow, unless we decide not to do it.
What is being done with that?
They're selecting a name tomorrow.
This is selecting a name for Senate, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, see, now that's out of my chamber. I hate to say this, but you're going to have to talk to Ogden about that deal. But, yes, Tom.
If we're going to the commission tomorrow, what is going to happen?
Specifically, the intent was to redo the Senate pick.
You're going to redo, how are you going to do that?
The names that are brought forward to us, pick a first, second, if there's a third,
Okay.
in case somebody
So the
withdraws.
names are going to come from Kerry?
Names have already
They've already been submitted.
from the
Okay, well, one of the people that we selected has declined to accept the position. So we're going to be voting on the other two?
The commissioners would vote, it's not we, it's the commissioners.
For the county to submit a fill a vacancy.
The two names that are left, if there's not a third, the commissioners would vote on who they would elect, 1 and 2.
Okay, I agree with that. Thank you.
Dan?
Don't get me wrong, I'm not against sending somebody down there to get turned away. But timing is everything on a military operation, even a farming operation. My question is, would it be better to do it when they actually seat the senators and representatives from unconstitutional districts, or wait till Chip's on the floor and is the Speaker of the House? The Speaker of the House is the one that's going to have to point up there and recognize these people. Is that not right, Chip?
That is true. Now something else to be considered, just in all reality, that there's going to be major ceremonies. It will all be getting installed. We'll be giving speeches on the 14th and stuff like that. That's all. It's going to be, the galleries are going to be literally full. So you can't really do it on that day because literally every seat is already designated being taken. Everybody that's going for those offices, all their spouses, I only get one person to come in there. I've got room for one person at that particular juncture. So I just got Joni.
I'll be there.
Thank you. And so, bring cookies.
That's my point.
When is
Timing
it the
is
best for
everything.
him to show up though?
I don't know. I mean, my first thought would have been when we're swearing everybody in, and that he's going to be there for that. That would be my thought. But let me do some research. And William, do this. Before you bolt out of here, let me give you numbers for Matt Obrick so that you and he can have this conversation. And he would be a great one for you, even as in your position, to ask him, if we're going to do this, and it's not just for looks. I don't think it should be just, we're only doing this for looks. We're coming down for this to be make a tangible difference and have an effect. So, you got a cell phone?
Now, he's giving out the numbers. If we can get buses. As concerned citizens or whatever, rent some buses and go down there. That will be a bigger deal. If we go down the day they're swearing in, they're gonna be interviewing all the people there and everything. And we want to be the only show on the staff.
7?
Get the biggest bang for our bucks. And if they know we're coming, they sit on the
7
floor,
to 8.
we know he'll recognize it. Otherwise, we don't know.
Just ask for Matt over there, he's the lead attorney there. And
And
another
we
one
will
too.
be the center of the
Gary's
meeting.
got it, I've got it.
And they will see the buses go in.
Yes, talk to me.
I'm not
Yes, sir.
trying to override you, but how does it work? So give me, like, the date they swear people in, and then when is Chip on the floor?
The date they swear everyone in is the 14th of
14th.
January, and then they will, Chip can speak better to it, right? But they will, once they swear everyone in, then there will be the ceremonial vote for the speaker, and then Chip will take over from
And
there.
there'll still be
On that
speakers.
same
while
day.
Yeah.
So, but you're saying we can't fit in the gallery that day?
I don't believe you can, it's gonna be standing room
But
only.
Danny's right to choose a day when, I mean, it's the big show will see Chip recognizing the Weston
See, and that can be
County
in the
So
first week
you
or
do
whatever.
that on whatever.
The 14th is on what day? What is the 14th of January on?
It's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday. Like if you guys, whatever, if it's your schedule, but I mean like later on in that week, or Friday, maybe Monday of the next week, things have maybe settled down a little bit, and things aren't so spastic, and then we can have that recognition.
Wouldn't the best date be would be when you call on the floor, somebody does obviously, to say, we want to uphold the Constitution and get rid of the clause that's in there?
Well, I mean, and that could easily be a piece of legislation or something. Now, that's all I'll talk to Obrecht about. That could be something that could be working through committees, where you guys would come and give testimony on that. Come to the committee for corporations.
So it would really show up there to be recognized from the floor. Would it be best that when that piece of legislation is on the floor?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and that would, you'd be there. But I mean, as far as as just coming and making the announcement and saying, this is why they're here, they've come down here because of this. And then that's what the discussion then will be well underway at that point, I would think, or at least at the very least, get it established. I need to talk to those guys and see what we can do. Like, just tell Matt, they want us to uphold the Constitution. What would a piece of legislation look like to just say, we're gonna uphold the Constitution, or if I would bring an amendment to the Constitution, and that's what I was asking you, we can have that drafted. We can actually have that introduced, because I know the guy that introduces legislation. I can make sure that that goes to a committee.
But you should go down there on that day.
Yes, that day, when that's being testified, if you get that drafted, and it goes down there on that day, and there's committee discussion and stuff like that, that's when you need to be there. Fill that committee room.
You have to establish the trigger point.
You
have to be rejected to show you have standing.
And that can be happening at any time. I mean, let's say, because what you're doing, from what I gather, is you're declaring that there's a vacancy. You know, and really, up until now, you're still, everything is all set. Well, to me, when J.D. Williams gets signed as certified as the district representative, then it's even more compelling that Weston County has 0 representatives. You know, I mean, because at that, right now, I mean, that's my argument, like my question to William. Alan Slagle's representing Weston County right now. What are you fussing about? So, well, not according to how he was elected, due to how our Constitution should have been elected. Well, when J.D. Williams is there, then you guys come down and you bring your designation down and you bring him to the floor and you say, hey, we have got a guy here from Weston County because our state constitution clearly says that we have the right as this county, according to our constitution, to install that person. He's not here. We do not have one. We want to install our guy. Well, you can't. I'm sorry. He can't go out on the floor. He's not a certified legislator. All right? You say, I can't go on the floor as a duly elected, appointed by my commissioners, county commissioner. You will not allow me onto the floor. Very good, sir. All right, I understand. I appreciate that. Thank you for your time. Shake his hand. Don't give him a hug necessarily. Just go march yourself right over, and then just go right up the stairs and come in at the top and walk right out into the top of the gallery
and right over the top of the entire legislature, and then we have that discussion, and that's what, you don't think everybody's not gonna know what the heck just happened at the doors right there, 6 feet out the back of the chamber. Well, when you guys all come up on top and you sit up there, then we'll have that discussion. And in the meantime, if I've been able to get some things put together that we can start acting on this legislation and get it introduced, and then have that discussion, because ultimately, and that's my point to William, I need as many representatives that are gonna support, because it's a vote. It's gonna require a vote. It's not something I can just say, you're just gonna do this. I have to have a majority vote. And if you guys can put that pressure on these other legislators around the state, to Carrie's point, you think about this. We're still gonna be in session in February. We don't get out till the 6th of March. If you've got a state committee meeting in February and you can gather up a bunch of support, your best bet might be to come immediately after that state committee meeting, right in the middle of the general session. But I'll have to tell you, make sure that we know early enough that we make sure that the bill gets introduced and to and out of the committee, if we can, before the break off. Because there is a timeline certain that you must have it out of the committee of origin, or it goes nowhere. It dies right there, and they'll play the clock out. And then Tricia, and then Dan.
Can we do both? Like Carl shows up on the 12th, gets turned away,
14th.
or the 14th and gets turned away calmly. And then he comes back again when the new legislature.
With us,
is. So I don't wanna look like chickens. I think if we don't go on the 14th, we've like backed down, where they're like, oh, they're scared, they're not even sending them down here.
No, you can certainly
But
come.
you could just calmly walk away and come home,
Yeah.
because it's too busy to do anything else. And then go back and say, I'm showing up again because there's the 68th legislature here now, and I want seated. Probably get turned back again, and then go to the gallery.
Yeah, certainly could.
What
And
is-
And that would give us the ability to be able to have that legislation maybe drafted and start
Right.
working that through the process. And then
Right.
that's when we would definitely need you guys to come down and give testimony, talk about it.
I'm sorry,
No, that's fine.
what's your opinion on the 15 days to provide 3 names and the 5 days to choose a name? Does that need started over, or can we just fix it tomorrow?
I wish I could tell you, I don't know.
It doesn't really bother you?
Well, no, I mean, because you're gonna declare a vacancy. Is there, do you, I mean,
It got
even in the
declared.
statutes, there's no specific timeline that a vacancy can be declared.
Well, they declared the vacancy, then there was 15 days for the GOP to provide 3 names, which they did within that 15 days.
Mhm.
And then there was 5 days for the commissioners to choose who were gonna be the appointees.
Right.
And, which they did. And then one of the appointees backed out. So are we legitimate statute-wise by replacing the one that
I'm
backed
not
out?
listening to the statutes. Are you kidding me at this point? What are we doing?
Well,
I'm discussing.
we are following.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
I mean, we're not
I don't,
anti-statutes.
you're still within your timeline, aren't you, Don?
The 5 days is long gone.
The 5 days is long.
Oh,
But
well, I will tell you
But they
this.
chose William.
I don't mean to interrupt either, but I will tell you this. You better have your ducks in a row, and you better not let them have anything that they can pick your case apart with. If it's looped over and you didn't do the 5 days, they're like, oh, well,
But they
sorry.
chose William within 5 days. But then they never signed a piece of paper and said, we chose.
I did not sign the piece of
Right.
paper because William withdrew.
'Cause he withdrew
So I'm sending
before.
down a piece of paper to say William is our representative when he withdrew. So what Frank said is it needed to be in a public meeting because frankly, the people that we're nominating are only being nominated by basically the people in this room. I've had multiple complaints from people to say, well, what makes their vote more important than mine?
They could have come to the meeting.
They could have, but those people that were on that nomination could have come to the meeting too, and they didn't. So, my point to that is to do it right, we needed to have a public meeting to say we nominate William, and then we nominate Patricia, and then we nominate whoever. At this point, it'll be Sue, sorry, I don't mean to skip over. We needed to do it right, and that's what we're trying to correct.
There's no question about that, Phil.
Thank you.
You need to do it right, because they're gonna look for anything that possibly can be picked apart. You know, and anybody really should. I mean, this is very important, and they're gonna.
In addition to the weekly printed version of the newsletter journal, we also promote our community and share important information on our award-winning website, newslj.com, and in our weekly email newsletter, Nuke Now. We also connect with readers through various social media platforms and invite you to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can even take a look at a recent meeting of the City Council, School Board, or County Commission on our YouTube channel. We do hope that you will go to newslj.com and subscribe today, and we look forward to making all of our great content available to you. But regardless of your level of support, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for doing your part to preserve a free and independent local press.
Picked apart, you know, and anybody really should. I mean, this is very important, and they're going to want to make sure everything is exactly right. Yes, ma'am.
So, Don, my question is if we nominate names tomorrow, or you guys pick it, will it be correct?
As far as I know, that's what we need to do to correct it. That's what the instructions that I was given after talking to Frank. Everyone can, I mean, I've heard it, just like you guys, there's about 17 different opinions. Well, we can't now because but tell me when this has ever happened before for anyone to have the expertise to tell anyone here that, well, you can't do it that way. We're obviously breaking into new ground here.
Oh, yeah.
Even Frank said, you know, this is totally new. So anyone who says, well, we can't as commissioners do it, I'm sorry, they're full of shit. Because they don't know. We've never done it.
It's by statute. Why is it new ground to declare vacancies?
I know, but
It's not new
that's what I'm
ground.
saying. So the public part, I agree with. It needs to be transparent and it needs to be public.
Because we're not declaring a vacancy in a district. They're going to say that you do have representation in your
Right.
district. And so that's what they're going to tell you.
But if it would have been a commissioner vacancy, and they would have chose someone who then backed out,
We would have had a 1, 2, and a 3. It would have all been in a public meeting according to
but
Frank.
let's say
that's
they
how-
didn't have a 1, 2, and 3, and
You'd
it
have to do
happened
a
just
public
like with William, what would the next steps have been?
Do a public meeting and nominate the next person, which
Okay.
is exactly what we are trying to get accomplished.
Well, I would request that you do that tomorrow, and,
Well, that's what the plan's always been.
yeah.
Perfect. Okay. But I think to that point, I think that's that's some of the hurdles. And that's what I want. I just want full transparency and stuff that you're going to be questioned with, and we're going to try to come to a logical or way of arguing at that point. They're going to look at, well, you do have representation in your district.
Understand.
What's wrong? It's like, well, you got Neiman and you got Williams now. So you got 4 representatives. You got 2 senators and 2 representatives. Why is Weston County griping? They got more than anybody.
Right.
You know, but you guys are going to argue this from the point of, what does our Constitution say our representatives should be?
That's right.
And that's what this all boils down to. Where and what does the Constitution say that we should have? And that's what you're wanting to do. And that's a valid argument. And that's what I've always maintained with all of y'all, and I hope you know that. I'm never going to tell you guys you should not fight for your state constitution, ever. I don't know anybody that would, in their right mind, would say, just throw it aside, because the next thing is you should throw aside our national constitution. And then we do have anarchy. Yes, Dan?
In the art of war, if you're strong, you personify weakness. If you're weak, you make them think you're strong. And you guys are saying we're gonna go down there so they don't think we're quitting. Well, from what I'm hearing here today, and you know me, I'm not backing up from a fight, but our best shot is we can go down there on the first day, but you're filling a vacancy. A vacancy can be sworn in April, July, whenever that vacancy shows up, they have to swear them in, or not. If we do it on the first day and we get rejected, we look like we're bullying, and they think that. If we don't go down the first day, they go, oh, they backed out and they're chicken shits. We got them.
I can guarantee you they know that's not true.
Then Chip will be on the floor. And this is high ground. And you need high ground in any battle. That is 90% of any battle, is to have the high ground. And this is war, people. It's good versus evil. And evil don't play by the rules. And evil is not scared. So I'm all for going down and getting rejected, but I want Chip on the floor, and everybody will be focused on that issue the day we do it. KOTA, they won't be talking about the governor, they won't be talking about that guy named Chip Neiman that's being sworn in and all that crap. It's gonna be Weston County is there.
Dan is right, because what you're going to be doing is going to be drowned out by everything else that's going on.
We get one shot at the media.
Hey, and
Let's
that's
make it
another
count.
thing.
you might want to make sure KOTA is there. Have you ever seen anything out of the Wyoming legislature on KOTA? And do you guys get KTWO or Casper or anything up here? Stan?
Let's get KSL. I wanted to say the vacancies were cleared in 92, if I understand this right. And second, I can also see a judge, if it ended up in court, saying, well, did you send your representatives down there for the new, and no, we didn't do that. Well, why?
I think it can either go only.
Because we're at war?
And go back the second time.
No, but we extended them down this time, and that's the deal that they're gonna have to deal with. We asked that. We're asking that now. It don't make any difference when you ask it. They're denying it today. And we have a favor. I'll tell you guys, I said everything in 92 that I did today, and nobody wanted to hear it. Timing is everything. I don't care how bad the guy across the street said your wife wear combat boots. You better be ready when you walk across the street. If it's a week, it's a week. You don't have to punch him in the mouth the first day. So, as long as we're here today, let's decide on what the commissioners are going to do. Everybody in favor of the commission?
So I got a question. If the commissioners appoint a senator tomorrow, then do they have to show up on January 14th, or can they show up on?
I don't believe so.
Later. So just because they fill the vacancy, we don't necessarily have to show up on the first day.
They don't start to go bad or anything like that.
You never know. You never know.
You don't have to refrigerate them until you use. Go ahead.
I would like to bring a point to what Dan says. Generals, when engage in battle, pick the most optimum time for their battle. They do not go without the best information available. In order to win that battle, you want the advantage.
Well, if I understand it right, Chip said he would communicate which would be a good time for us to go down, correct?
Yes, yeah, I'll try to put something
So let's
together
go with
that's
that.
gonna be the best.
Your recommendation.
You know, and I guess to Danny's point, I think he's right. It's gonna be just a circus the day that we go in there. You guys, all your efforts are gonna just disappear inside of that. You know, oh, and by the way, Weston County came down with their attempt to fill a vacancy that they see in the legislature. Oh, okay, but yeah, what the governor said and all this stuff in the new legislature and what are you gonna do and why the conservatives cleaned out the House and everybody's now, the Democrats are on appropriations, you're gonna hear all kinds of crap. So, to Dan's point, you're right. If you want to have more emphasis on what you're doing, you're gonna have to kind of stage it. You're gonna have to have media presence there, let them know that we'll work with you on making sure that you're recognized. When you come to, they're great guys, the sergeant officer. Well, I'm designee, come down here to be installed into the legislature because we've declared a vacancy in Weston County. They'll say, we can't let you on, fella, I'm sorry. Okay, don't ever say this. Don't say I understand. Say, well, I don't understand that because clearly our state constitution says that we should be able to do this. But out of respect for you, until we get this sorted out, you guys go upstairs, and then that's when I will be let to know, I'm sure, I'll know ahead of time, and then we can continue to build on that. And in the interim, to Carrie's point, I think it's an awesome point. You've got in February here, get support from other representatives, because this is going to require a vote. To make this work, you have to have an argument to get more people to vote with this. I can stand up there and yell all day long about just one vote, so this takes a corporate effort. So, well, I mean, I'll stay here and visit with you and answer questions if I can. I've learned a lot more. I've not really answered any questions, but I've learned a lot here today, and that's what I hope to do. Yes, sir.
I've been thinking about this as a citizen.
Speak up there.
Here, come over here. Come on up here. You sure? They turned it down. It's not quite so hot as it was.
As a citizen, as soon as this new legislation gets installed, we won't have a representative in this county, or in this district, and we won't have a senator in this district. So I am going to be suffering taxation without representation, which is what formed this damn country in the first place. And it's another thing that we can stand, and you can say that to people when you're talking to get support. They'll understand that. And we are. We're just like we are, the United States was in 1775. And I am a little PO'd about this because 50 years ago, I hunted down and killed commies. And now I let them run my damn country, states, cities. They tell me what I can buy, where I can go, what I can do. I'm pissed.
I need you to come down and testify at the committee.
Bring your rifle home.
I kid you not, right? That right there, I kid you not, that right there is what makes the difference. I mean, stop and think about what's at stake. And that's what I told those people in that meeting that day. Says these are good people and they're on the right track. And so many of us have lost sight of really what's going on. It's kind of like a frog in a pot that's boiled up slowly. Pretty quick, our rights are gone. And we just kind of just roll over and, you know, because we just that's the way it is. Yes?
One last question.
You have to speak up, Dan. We can't hear
I
you.
have one last question.
Thank you, Dan.
Three county commissioners. Has this informed you and filled in some of the blanks for you, or is there something else we need to do? Are you content with where we're going tomorrow? Okay. Larry, you got any more questions or anything?
I always feel more informed after I listen to this group. But they're very educational, I think, too.
Yes, they are. A lot of my cohorts would do well to have you
They
guys.
certainly have really brought to my mind, you know, when you run for an office and you take that oath to uphold the Constitution, this is part of it, whether you're popular for it or not. I took an oath, and they've reminded me of that over and over again, which I appreciate. I think we just go forward tomorrow.
Yeah, to go along with beer there, that was referencing the conclusion here that Matt had wrote up. And it was quoting from Heath versus Gilstrap, and the word that stuck out in my mind was presume. It says the redistricting law is presumed to be constitutional until declared unconstitutional by a court or competent jurisdiction. I thought, you know what, I've got a good idea what presumed is, so let's look it up just for fun. To suppose to be true without proof or before injury. So, interestingly enough, we're declaring injury. Injury of lack of representation, lack of constitutional adherence, and there's some things that are very factual here throughout the discussion that we've had and I've heard today, and I really like to listen because it gets my mind thinking in different areas than what it normally thinks. Factually, we were district on county lines prior to 91, so don't forget that. The way that we're district now, to me it would be way harder to go to the districting in which we are currently, the way that Article 3, Section 3 states, than it would be to go back to an unamended constitution. So factually that is the case. And also another thing that's very factual is that the Constitution, this was hashed out and redistricted the way that we are right now. There was very much time put into this when that one man, one vote got the trickle down and we're districted the way that we are currently. So that this has very much been hashed out. But the Constitution wasn't. You gotta think about that for a minute. That's a statement. That's a large statement. The question in my mind is we would have no wind under our sail. I'm a pilot, and without wind, you stall. We wouldn't have any.
But there is no substitute for speed.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
We wouldn't have any wind under our sails as a group right here talking about what we're talking about had that Constitution been amended. Okay, our ultimate goal is is to adhere to the Constitution, and in doing that, we receive our representation. That's our number one goal. Now, the amendment of the Constitution had also been touched on, but we're like, hey, you know, as a last resort, at least do that, but this is the main goal. The Constitution was never amended. Was it because they knew that the vote of the people was not going to accept it? That's a thought. Maybe if we put this to the vote of the people, hey, this is the way that we want the state district in accordance to our legislature. What do you guys think? No way, not even close. Oh, well now what do we do? Now we got this and we don't have the support here. Now what do we do? If we do it and don't put it to a vote, we'll leave the candle lit and deal with this down the road. Well, here it is today, guys. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, I haven't had anybody tell me differently, but that's how I see it. So that creates a lot of different problems. Again, presumed, assumed to, without injury. Well, now look at elected officials. We take an oath of office, right? We get up, yes, we will uphold that Constitution. Well, how can we if we're not following it by a state?
Amen.
I mean, isn't that's a thing, right?
That's
Okay.
absolutely
So is
a
it
thing.
our personal problem? Concerned citizens say, hey, this is the way we should be district. Are you in support of it? Well, there's Article 3, Section 3. I am. Well, you can't not be in support of it and be a commissioner. Really?
Correct.
And that was because of that word right there, presumed. We're gonna call it constitutional. It's presumed constitutional until a judge says it's not. So we're gonna go out, we're gonna hang out as late as we want on Friday night and until we get in trouble for it, is what we're gonna do. Until that happens, we'll deal with the consequences then. Well,
And see, your argument is well taken, because there should be just as much impetus on the other side to get it tied in as there is for you guys to make sure it never gets tied
exactly,
in.
the problem gets compounded, Chip.
But you also can't be asked to take, you can't ask when you take your oath to uphold the Constitution, which version of the Constitution.
Right, which version?
Yeah.
Is the state?
All but this part.
Okay,
You're
this is
gonna
a good
uphold all but this
question.
part.
When you go to take your oath of office, can you say, before I say I do, is the state upholding the Constitution? Okay, because if that's the case, if the state can say I do, then I will. But we found out in Article 3, Section 3 that they're not. Interesting.
Yes,
Well
Dan.
said. The 600-pound gorilla in the room, and I really hate to put it like that,
Don't call yourself
is
that.
our Senate.
Yep. This won't happen unless you have Senate approval, and 2/3 of them, if you want to change the Constitution.
What are you hearing? Are you hearing anything from them?
The Senate is very, very, right now the Senate is extremely undecided. They're struggling to figure out probably who's going to be in leadership. And there's just a lot of problems right now trying to work through those details. And so right now I am holding my decisions on my committees based on what the Senate's going to do. Because if the Senate goes to the right and is conservative, which they can do, they showed that coalition last year. But if they don't, then I have to work on my side, like appropriations and education and corporations, on especially election laws and budgeting and school choice and all those different things we're talking about. It's 9 members on my side, 5 members on their side. So if they put together a really, really solid liberal group, that's 5 members, let's say, and then those could join with just a few members of mine, kill all legislation. So what they do is going to have a direct effect on what I do as I choose my committees. And we'll know that Saturday, literally, a week from this last Saturday. Saturday in Casper, leadership will be chosen. And at that point, then I will be able to sit my committees on. So to your point, Dan, anybody's guess right now. Nobody knows. There's senators that are actively trying to figure out what's going on, trying to have conversations with them, and that's pretty difficult road to hoe right now. So I don't know. And it's going to matter. This won't do anything if we don't have a good Senate that'll support this. So that's.
I know our own doesn't support this.
Anybody else like to opine on this?
Mile, northern half.
Yeah. So, but, well, I really appreciate all of you coming today. I hope this was informative. This was very informative for me. And I appreciate how involved you guys are in the process and what's going on. So, and I will reiterate this, I've said this before, my commitment is to reflect you guys' desire here in Weston County. And after the election, I was a little concerned about maybe I didn't reflect what you guys wanted down here in the election, but that has since been changed. So hopefully I can continue to represent the vast majority of you folks down here. And I support you in this, and we just need the support of more legislators to help move this ball down the field. So, but it is moving, I will tell you that. You guys have what I don't know if it's called necessarily the shot heard around the world, but it's being heard in places I've never heard it brought up before. And so you are getting the word out. So let's see how this develops.
I'd like to tell you, you're a lousy politician. You're one of the greatest statesmen I've ever met.
The new store. This is the one-stop shop. We have a pharmacy. We have a bootlegger's liquor. The deli, the food that you can get at a lunchtime is so amazing. The coffee shop. Certain Friday mornings, there's 30 people sitting here in all these chairs. This is the hub for people to come and visit, have their coffee, have their donuts. It's amazing what this area has done. Totally amazing.